U-GeekTV.
Welcome back to the Unapologetic Opinion. Welcome back to U-GeekTV. This show is Unapologetic Opinion. I did the intro somewhat wrong, but still got it right. I'm your host, Darius, the Unapologetic Geek. I am joined yet again by my esteemed colleague, Hoodie C. And today we got a show that's not necessarily loaded with topics, but it's loaded with content. This episode is all about Captain America Brave New World. We're going to get into a spoiler-free review. We're going to get into a spoiler review. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the MCU after Captain America Brave New World. And lastly, we'll talk about the returns. Like, did it do well in the box office? Stay tuned so we can talk about that. But first, brother, it's time, man. It's time. We talked about it. We called him DEI Captain America after he pissed off his constituents. And yeah, man, it's time to finally talk about this movie. This is a spoiler-free review, as you can see. When we get to the spoiler review, I'll mark it off just like I marked off for Invincible in the prior episode. And honestly, I kind of want to start with you. I want to get your perspective on it because I gave you a little bit of how I felt about it, but I didn't hear really back from you after you saw the film. I didn't even know you saw the film until you let me know. So, how did you feel going into this, Hoodie, or coming out of it rather? And yeah, just give me your perspective, brother.
So honestly, bro, I feel like you did share a message after you went and saw it before I went and seen it. And that definitely helped me kind of appreciate it in a different light. And I say appreciate as far as like ingesting the film as a whole, not necessarily loving it or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I mean, I feel like in typical Marvel fashion, I feel like the future implications carried the film more so than what was going on in the actual film, if that makes sense to a lot of people.
Okay.
What could be coming in the future could be phenomenal, but as far as like a standalone project, I thought it was all right, man. I thought there were a lot of themes that were very relevant to the times that we are in now. I felt like there was a lot of monologues and speeches that was made that also can be very relevant to what we are going through now in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Overall, I thought it was a solid project. I didn't think it was phenomenal, but I didn't think it was bad. I know a lot of people were bashing it and whatnot, but there's probably obvious reasons why they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the actors, I mean, I think all the actors who were the focal point of the film, as you see the big five you got up on the screen right now, I thought they all did a phenomenal job in their roles. So overall, it wasn't one of those I walked out of feeling like I got cheated out of $10 or whatever. I felt like it was money well spent, and I'm just looking forward to what we got coming in the future.
Okay. So your analysis of it, I'm with you on what you're saying. And I kind of echo some of the sentiments that you have about it. It took me days of really digesting this film to figure out or sort through my feelings. Since
Right.
it's a spoiler-free review, I'll make this part brief.
Gotcha.
My issues with this movie are not film issues. My issues with this movie are MCU issues.
Mhm.
Once I was able to separate the two and just take this film for what it was, I liked it. I did. It
Right.
was a lot that I liked about it. Anthony Mackie is not Chris Evans. Steve
Nah.
Rogers, as they've said so many times in the trailers, is not who Sam Wilson is. Sam Wilson is his own man. He's his own Captain America. This
Facts.
kind of started with Captain America. I mean, I'm sorry, it ended up being named Captain America and the Winter Soldier, but Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the TV show, does a good job to me cementing his place as to why he was chosen by Steve. And
Mhm.
that psychotherapy session that he does when he's talking to soldiers and he relates to them, it plays out at one point in this movie. It actually plays out a couple times in this movie.
Right.
And he's just Captain America in a different way. He's not the Captain America I'm used to, but he eyed with me in terms of him being Captain America.
Facts.
Harrison Ford's turn as Thunderbolt Ross was great. Harrison Ford showed up to work. He didn't phone
Phenomenal.
this in. He showed up to work. He gave a great performance as a man who is still haunted by his sins and who he was before. He did a great job of filling in for William Hurt, who also, I mean, if he was still alive, I think he would have filled this role out very well. William Hurt is a great actor in his own right.
Facts.
But Harrison Ford does a great job of making Thunderbolt Ross his own. And the struggles that he has, both internally and externally, play out very well based on his acting chops, really. So yeah, in that regard, again, he showed up to work. Giancarlo Esposito or John, they call him Giancarlo. I've heard Giancarlo. I believe it's Giancarlo Esposito. You can tell his scenes were some of those scenes that were uh what do they call it? Reshoots. You can tell his part is added in. And you can also tell there's a plot line that was supposed to be there that they took out. You can.
Right.
But overall, everything fits pretty well. The new Falcon I could have kind of done without. Like he's kind of annoying at some point. Well, pretty funny. For the most part, he was pretty funny. So that was cool. And it does tap into different plot lines that we've seen over the MCU. We may not have seen in a long time. The obvious one being the corpse of Tiamat in the middle of the Indian Ocean. We finally got somebody in the MCU to acknowledge that.
Right.
I think it was acknowledged like one time in a TV show. I want to say it was Miss Marvel, maybe that they acknowledged it once, but they kind of moved on from it. But yeah, the giant being that's in the middle of the Indian Ocean, they finally decided to acknowledge it. But the one that I didn't realize how deep they were going to go into a movie that came out 17 years ago before Marvel Studios was absorbed by Disney in the first place with the Incredible Hulk. I didn't realize we were getting a sequel to it. Didn't so my overall gripes with the film, now from a film standpoint, but well, no, it's from an MCU standpoint. I don't understand why this was the film to make the Incredible Hulk sequel out of. Like,
Right.
this story is Captain America solving an issue that's more of a Hulk issue than it is American, so to speak. It's a very kind of grounded Captain America situation, whereas the Winter Soldier had bigger implications with the whole Hydra infiltration thing, and then Civil War had even bigger implications because it dismantled the Avengers. This is on a smaller scale, and I'm not sure if it's a conflict that necessarily represented the compromisation of America so much of the as it represented the compromisation of Thunderbolt Ross. He is the
Right.
center of this movie. This is a Hulk movie by every stretch. But that's kind of whatever. I'm just not sure this was the time to kind of get into that whole story, whatever the case may be. In the spoiler review, we can talk more about it. But I actually had a better, or no, I'm not going to say it better because that's kind of presumptive of me. But I had a plot idea that maybe they could have used that to kind of push forward things in the MCU. And actually, I'm going to revisit that in the MCU part of our discussion. Just to wrap up the spoiler-free review, I'm going to go ahead and render the verdict here. Captain America Brave New World, for me, even with the issues that I had, even with the hate that's online about it, which is fucking crazy, for me, it's an unapologetically legit film. It is a 4 out of 5. Like, I really had a good job, I really had a good time enjoying this. I enjoyed the job that they did with this film. But I had to get past my issues with the MCU to get there. How did you feel about it? Where would you rate it?
Yeah. I share your sentiment with a lot of your pushback and feelings toward trying to separate the film. I was trying to do that the whole time I was in there. But yeah, again, like I said, it's definitely not great, but it's damn sure not bad.
Yeah.
Like you said, production wise, it did everything it needed to do. So I'm gonna give it what is that? Unapologetically, it was
That's a
a 3
3
out
out
of
of
5
5.
for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
it
right,
was
look
a
at
3 out
you
of
keeping
5.
up with the greatness scale. And I should have gotten it to you. One thing I want to say though, I want to say this. Shout out to Julius Ona, the director of the film. To me, I'll be honest, he did a good job with it, man. He did a good job with what he was handed. But
Right.
with that being said, now we're going to shift to the spoiler review where we can really get in depth and talk about the things that we really want to get out of our chest. If you have not seen Captain America Brave New World yet, what were you doing this weekend? No, seriously. I'm going to make sure I give the chapter bookmark, and that way you can skip ahead if you want to hear about how we feel about the MCU as a whole going forward. But I'll be honest, it's probably going to be spoilers for not only that film, but also other films in the MCU that you may not have seen yet. Because I understand, I don't know which movies we're going to talk about and which ones we're not. But I would love for you all to stick around and listen to our spoiler discussion. If you haven't seen it, again, go and see it, come back, and just listen to our thoughts. And I'll also, of course, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. With that being said, all right. This is the start of the spoiler review.
Boom.
Thunderbolt Ross, I'll be honest, you could have told this story in Thunderbolts. Which I already said, I believe that's what the asterisk on that title is for. I believe, and by the end of this film, he is still Red Hulk. After I saw the end of this, I definitely believe he's gonna come and fight the Void. I feel like that's how the Thunderbolts survived fighting Sentry / Void. That's where I'm at with it. You could have, and this would have probably lended itself very well to a Thunderbolt movie. Him going through that process of trying to fight something that he's not even aware of, the leader that's been giving him these pills to maintain to maintain a heart condition that he has. And he's been sliding gamma radiation in it. And that's why he turns into Red Hulk. Also, I'm not sure why they didn't even go in depth about Red Hulk's powers. They did show you that he's intensely hot, like with the
Right.
smolders coming off his body and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Hulk, the longer he fights, the stronger he gets. The longer Red Hulk fights, the hotter he gets. And like
Yep.
his temperatures get ridiculous at some point or whatever, to the point where Hulk can't even really touch him when they're fighting. Which could have lended itself very well to like damaging Sam's wings and things like that. I don't think they really took proper advantage of having Red Hulk in this film, especially in that final conflict.
Nah.
I don't know where they were going with that, or where they decide why they decided not to go where they should have gone with it. But whatever. The action is okay. They
Yeah.
do a pretty good job compensating for him not having a super soldier serum, and the super soldier serum comes up in a very surprising cameo and conversation with one Bucky, aka the Winter Soldier.
Mhm.
And Bucky basically said, "No, he gave you." He reminds Sam of why Captain America gave him the shield. It wasn't about being a super soldier. It's about being, a good man essentially, and somebody that Captain America, that Steve Rogers could trust with that shield, and to kind of maintain his values and his thoughts on it, but also do his own thing. Um, and to that point, the action wasn't as exciting in terms of the fighting as it was, when you had Steven Rogers running around being a super soldier.
Facts.
But that action scene with Titan in the background, where they're flying around and they're battling against the jet fighters for Japan. Yeah, it was Japan.
Yeah.
While also trying to maintain what the leader has done in terms of taking over like American heroes and having them to do things. That was a really cool scene to me.
Facts.
It was, yeah. That scene was dope. The new Falcon and Captain America, you working side by side. They were inventive with how they were going to solve the problem. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with being able to skate on top of I'm not a torpedo, on top of a missile and get it to go underwater. I'm not sure of the anatomy of how that works, but it worked for a movie or whatever. But when
Facts.
I saw the stage that was set, like that's a hell of a set piece, having that celestial in the background. And I'm like, whenever they do another Marvel versus Capcom, there has to be a stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
There got to be a stage. That'd be dope as hell having the celestial frozen in the background as your characters are fighting or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I think the main thing that I want to kind of discuss, we do agree that this is a reskin of Civil War, the Winter Soldier, and yeah, no, it was those two. It's a reskin of that. Like they essentially take on the same mission. Isaiah is being controlled by the leader using a song, which Pierce was controlling
But
Bucky using a series of words, right?
right.
And then on the Civil War side of things, the leader is essentially a stand-in for Baron Zemo. He's doing the same thing. He's on the same mission, and instead of exposing the Avengers and by proxy exposing Steven Rogers, um, his darkest secret to his best friend, he's exposing the dark secret of Thunderbolt Ross um, to Sam Wilson. And it's just one of those things like, look, man, we don't have to give him a rehash of Captain America's greatest hits. Like,
Right.
but yeah, Wes Sam is his own man. But that's just where I wanted to start, man. What did you think about the plot they decided to place around Sam Wilson and how it relates to Isaiah, who also that was another great performance in this film as well. But go ahead.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Like, when you kind of approach a situation in like a like-minded kind of stance on things, that's kind of all I kept thinking. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, at a certain point, I kind of felt like they kind of did that on purpose. not necessarily to let him compete with Steve Rogers, but just to see if he can hold a candle to him almost. It kind of felt like they were
That's an
trying to
interesting way of
see.
looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's kind of like a play, right? You know, a play is gonna get told time and time again. You just got to find different actors to stand in those
Yeah.
same scenes to see if they can hold their weight. I kind of feel like that's what it was, man. And you know, at the same time, like you mentioned, it kind of gave us the perspective of what Steve possibly would have done if he wasn't a super soldier, almost.
Right.
So I guess it kind of they kind of spun the block to be like, okay, like you said, Steve chose you for a reason. So let's coincidentally put you in one of the same similar situations that Steve was in, and
Yeah.
let's see what you'll do with it. And you know, kind of along the same lines, which I mean, he was on Steve's side during Civil War, so
Mm-hmm.
it kind of was
But
already
he has his own Falcon on his side here. That's
exactly
just funny. Yeah.
the story kind of writ itself, man.
And then when I saw Bucky, the only thing I could think of is the congressional campaign that Bucky's on really that much more important? Because this could have been a sequel to the TV show Falcon and Winter Soldier, and you could have had them both come together. And I guess the danger that you run into is how does Bucky look next to somebody who doesn't have the super soldier serum?
Facts.
And Bucky will have a better understanding of what Isaiah is going through than Sam in that case, to be honest. So I understand not having him around, like you don't want to take away from Sam Wilson, but it was just an interesting thing that still have him show up in the movie, like he had something else better to do.
Right.
But yeah, and some of the beats, like the Causeway scene between where we get that excellent fight in the Winter Soldier between Bucky and Cap,
Mm-hmm.
and it's revealed that that's who's under the mask. They kind of played it out again, but this time it's Giancarlo Esposito fighting against Sam in a one-on-one fight, which again, I don't believe he would have rolled up on Sam without any backup or whatever. But again,
Right.
he doesn't have the super soldier serum. So the interesting thing about that is he took a knife to the chest and he took a spike to the stomach. And I was like, wait a minute, man. Like, is this man juiced up for real? You know, like Sam was doing some super soldier shit for somebody who didn't have the super soldier serum in him. He really was. And then, like that first dive out of the air, I was like, he should have shattered his legs when he landed, but I guess we
Facts.
chalked that up to vibranium. I don't know. Another thing, I still don't understand the relationship between Sam and Wakandans. There was nothing in Falcon and Winter Soldier that dictated they would have given him anything. Anything. And it's like, did T'Challa sign off on this before he died? Like, what are we talking about here? But whatever. Again, these are things that I'm letting go.
Right.
And, the whole conflict, I don't understand why he didn't just say to Thunderbolt Ross, hey, Bucky went through something just like this. Don't get ready to just execute Isaiah. I'm pretty sure there's something going on. Like everything in the film, they wanted to do their own version of Civil War, mixed in with the Winter Soldier, and we had to kind of damn the logic in order to get there in a lot of ways. And it is what it is, and it wouldn't be a problem, at least to me, if those other two movies didn't exist, I suppose. So that's why I didn't take off a whole lot for it. But moving on, those speeches that he was giving, he gave a great speech to Isaiah early on in the film, who is still struggling with everything that when he went through as his time as Captain America,
Right.
and not necessarily being thrust into the limelight. Like he was doing more covert missions, and they have a great discussion. There's a scene that's heartbreaking after Isaiah snaps out of the trance, and he was in the park, and he wore to this presidential dinner or presentation. He wore the same suit that he got married in. And when he was on the ground, he starts to complain about them, having this suit on the ground. That was a heartbreaking moment. That was very well played up, and that's honestly where Sam Wilson shines. Is when he's having that camaraderie with the new Falcon, with Isaiah. Even at one point with Thunderbolt Ross, like, he has the charisma, and he has that look of just being a regular guy in an extraordinary circumstance, which is what you really look for in Steve Rogers, right? But I'll say this: I feel like if Falcon and the Winter Soldier was released as Brave New World, it would have been better received. I believe that's a superior Falcon story here, because they show you in that show why Steve gave him the shield. And then at the end, he makes a whole big speech, which you can take from that what you want.
Right.
But yeah, there was a safe Negro speech in there or whatever. But yeah, it's got of whatever. It's got whatever. And I'm trying to just determine what we need to talk about in the MCU side, but we can keep in this movie. I guess we can go to the Thunderbolt Ross side of things.
Cool.
Boy, it would have been great if he had another Hulk, right? There is a whole movie that you could put Bruce Banner in here, and it works.
Facts.
You could still have Sam in it, but Bruce Banner would work in basically saying, Sam, do not trust that man. He's up to something. He has an angle. And you get the storyline of where Thunderbolt Ross saw Hulk just as this monster, and how does it play out once he becomes that monster? To me, they didn't play up. And I guess you didn't have enough time. How Ross felt after being the Hulk, and what he put Bruce through. I would have loved for them to unpack that, man, and really get into it, man. What do you think about the Thunderbolt Ross side of this?
Well, it's just like that old saying, man. Like, I don't really know exactly how the saying go. I know the premise of it, right? You pretty much become the monster that you fear, type shit. Shit like that. Yeah, I think that was very interesting what they did at the end. Like you said, I would have loved to see how he felt about it, but I think that's honestly 100% that reason is why Betty came back to actually visit him when he was locked up. Yeah, because she knows how Bruce felt after that, and knowing that her dad just went through what he just went through because he was the one who put Bruce through that. She kind of, I felt like she kind of felt, like you said, a level of sympathy to where it was like, okay, like if he was trying to apologize earlier, he really needs me now because he's probably lost and or broken because he didn't empathize with Bruce going through what he was going through, right? He essentially sicked the dogs on him, and knowing that he just went through that, it was kind of like, okay, maybe Bruce wasn't a monster that I picked him out to be.
Right. I would have liked to have seen him say that. Also, you have to consider at this point, Bruce is the reason for the blip. He's the reason everybody came back. He did the snap. Bruce has been like a full-on Avenger at this point, and you really don't even hear him bring that up. Even with the Sokovia Accord situation, Bruce was in space when all of that happened. So we don't have a bookend of that. But he goes through essentially what Bruce goes through every day as the Hulk. And one of the most tense moments is when he almost turns into Red Hulk on that ship. And I thought
Man.
that was well done. And I was like, wait a minute, are you? I was anticipating, is he about to cut loose on this ship? And the previews and stuff had just been bullshit. Like that would have been dope or whatever. But no, they don't even get into that. But moving on. Another thing, I wanted to talk about the fight, the big fight between Captain America and Red Hulk.
Mhm.
And vibranium is a very important piece of this fight because it allows I'm not Falcon. See, I'm trying to show the man some respect. It allows Captain America to take those hits, and they keep going back and forth. And of course, his fighting style is so different. Honestly, I'm not sure how Steven Rogers would have been able to take on Red Hulk without, the aid of wings, which is what Sam had. So that's another thing that made it interesting and a fight that was unique to Sam. And I appreciated that. But boy, Red Hulk was whooping some ass.
Was he?
He was beating some ass. He was tearing Washington the fuck up out there. I looked at my wife. I said, "Man, how embarrassing is it to be the president that tore up the damn White House?" Ain't that some shit? But yeah, then they get to the Blossom Gardens, and it's a pretty good fight. And again, what's interesting is they didn't explicitly tell you what his powers were, but it was the fact that the wings were absorbing the energy.
Right.
That tells you now this motherfucker. This is actual heat. This is kinetic energy that he's feeding off, of gamma energy that he's feeding off. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Mhm.
And the way Sam created separation between them, I thought was cool. Stabbing him in the stomach and then releasing the energy blast from the vibranium. I thought that was dope too. And it was a pretty solid fight. It's nowhere near the fight between Abomination and Hulk and the Incredible Hulk, which is oh my god, that is a top tier conflict between those two.
All
But
time
I
great.
have loved Green Savage Hulk versus Red Savage Hulk in here. Absolutely would have loved that. But the fight that we got, and which is something that I was concerned about, like how do they play this up, is in a situation where it's like Kang losing to a
Man.
D-list character like Ant-Man. Like that was, and I had a friend who actually raised that concern and was like, doesn't Red Hulk lose? And I told him, I can't spoil it for you, but Red Hulk definitely doesn't lose this fight.
Thanks.
And they brought back a version of the sun getting low, and the sun actually was getting low as he was talking to him, which was interesting as well. To me, honestly, it makes sense for Thunderbolt Ross to have the discipline to calm himself down in that moment as a
Man, War
soldier.
General.
Yeah. It actually, well, that's one detail that I think is going to go unnoticed. He was actually able to sit down or to calm himself, listen to what Sam was saying, and he had the presence of mind, which honestly is why I believe in the comics Red Hulk is essentially he still preserves his personality as Red Hulk. It's because he's mentally fortified enough to be able to handle it. But yeah, I thought that was interesting too. How did you feel about the fight?
Man, the fight was it definitely gave us a perspective on how humanized this Captain America is. And yeah, like you said, he had to get intuitive, man, because if not, it would have been his grave. You know what I'm saying?
You've been real
So
nasty out there.
yeah, I mean, trying to create separation, like you said, flying away, even trying to get to the cherry blossoms, that was, he obviously knew that would trigger something in him or try to. So yeah, I mean, even like I'm glad it wasn't any unnecessary fan service for Sam in that fight, like him just eating a punch to the face or
Oh
maybe
my
throwing a
god.
punch that could have hurt Red Hulk. Like, come on, that wasn't happening.
Nah.
Everything that happened in the fight is pretty much how it should have played out. And, along with the collateral damage, like you mentioned, was crazy. even when they got to the Blossoms, man, all them cars in the parking lot, man, I hope they paid their
Cook.
bills, bro, because
Cook.
hope they had insurance, dog, because if not, they gonna be shit out of luck.
They have to have an Avenger policy in this universe.
got to, dog. But man, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like you mentioned earlier, I think the whole scene of the dog fight was probably the best fight scene in this movie to me.
Oh, yeah.
But this one was very justifiable, and I enjoyed it. Like you said, Red Hulk definitely didn't lose.
Mhm.
So that's the part of it that was the most realistic of all, was the fact that
Right.
Sam was about to eat shit. So yeah, I enjoyed it, bro, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And so, in terms of the spoiler side of this is going to transition into the MCU side of this now. And yeah, I'll just get to it. I'll just get to it. I don't understand why vibranium is stronger than adamantium. I mean, why adamantium is stronger than vibranium. I don't understand it.
Me neither.
And people may listen to this and they're like, why is this a big part of the MCU discussion? Because to me, it looks like they're trying to separate themselves from Wakanda a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That guy on the top left, they're separating themselves from that character. And after hyping up Wakanda in its own movie, tearing it up a little bit in the second movie,
right,
but also having another source of vibranium just out of nowhere with these aquatic Mayan people. Now it is another metal that made Wakanda special that's just out there. And it's like they're really trying to get away with it. And then even with the vibranium wings, the Wakanda's not about to replace that. I'm gonna tell you now. That next Avenger movie, what you want to bet they're gonna be made out of adamantium? What you want to bet that the new wings are gonna be made out of adamantium? I can call it right now, plain as day.
Facts.
I see that shit coming from a mile away. It's gonna be, they're gonna be different.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to talk about this phase, which is phase 4. We're outside of the Infinity Saga, and we're just in this new place. They have had a lot of missteps. Started off strong with WandaVision, but then WandaVision kind of did some bullshit toward the end, like with the Quicksilver fake out for one. Then you went to Falcon and Winter Soldier. People really didn't like Falcon and Winter Soldier at the time, but the longer we've separated from it, the better received it is for me. I think some of the gripes we've had with Falcon and Winter Soldier really come from a lack of Steve Rogers in that film. And then you had the whole U.S. agent thing, which he was supposed to be an asshole. Like, that's the point of that character. By the way, I think he's gonna redeem himself in Thunderbolts. Like, the clips I've seen of him have been funny.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be dope. Loki was okay. A lot of people love to praise it, but it was just all right. I'm gonna be honest. Shang-Chi was a dope ass movie that just turns into an anime out of nowhere.
Banger.
That one is a banger. That's a good movie. Like, yeah, Shang-Chi is dope as hell. Shang-Chi has a dope protagonist, a doper antagonist, and an absolutely batshit crazy fight at the end, which is still, it hasn't been topped. Then you have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is a good Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I don't know. I mean, it does a great job wrapping up that story. But then you have Thor: Love and Thunder, which is ass. And I am so glad. I'm so glad Taika Waititi is not going to be a part of the next one. Ooh. And if he was, Chris Hemsworth killed this shit when he was like, I want more for Thor in the next movie. Like, I'm over this bullshit that y'all did. Honestly, the Russos kind of did some bullshit with Thor with Endgame, but they always made sure Thor had badass moments.
Facts.
Then you have Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, which I didn't necessarily care too much for it. I've already
Man.
expressed it to an extent how I feel about Wakanda Forever. Um, you had the Marvels, which honestly, the Marvels wasn't bad, but it was just such a bad taste in the mouth from stuff like the aforementioned films that I just named,
Right.
but also She-Hulk. It was another one that just She-Hulk is abysmal. Here's where I'm going with all of this. I saw it ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be clear. I am a feminist, right? I'm all for the awesomeness of women. Some of the
I
greatest
love
people
women.
I've ever known, some of the greatest people I've ever known are women. When they had that Avenger moment in Endgame where it was the all women team going
Yeah.
against them, we'll protect the Spider-Man. Remember, they weren't going against Thanos.
Facts.
I said, I hope they not doing what I think they about to do. And they turned around and did it.
Oh yeah.
Multiverse of Madness was a Wonder movie, not a
It was a
Doctor
Wanda
Strange
movie for sure.
That was one of them. WandaVision is a Wanda story. It's more of a Wanda story than it is a Vision story, but it's a damn good story. Don't get me wrong.
Facts.
They already set up. They had already set up Shuri replacing T'Challa. They had already set that up that that's where they wanted to go. All right.
Definitely.
Love and Thunder, Valkyrie, and what's my girl name? Jane. They came out looking better than him in that film. She-Hulk. All the men in She-Hulk are stupid, which is a disservice to their character.
That part.
I'm gonna Ant-Man Quantumania. The women did a whole lot more in that film. They just gave Ant-Man W over, which is still stupid. The W over Kang. That's still dumb as hell to me. And the list just goes on and on, man. Rocket Raccoon is the main character in Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
That was his story.
So that's honestly a big part of I saw it coming. And here's the thing. You know how you can get away with doing that? Having good writing.
True.
All of those films didn't have good writing in TV shows. Every single one of them.
Facts.
That's how you get away with doing it. You have to have they put what they wanted to do with their female characters ahead of the story. Miss Marvel is the exception to that. Miss Marvel is actually a good show.
Miss Marvel was actually pretty dope, bro. Like,
yeah, Miss Marvel is actually a good show. But the rest of them, they did it ass backwards. They did it ass backwards, and they were more focused on the message than the actual product. It shouldn't be message first, film second. It should be the other way around. And the writing should allow the audience to should convey to the audience without issue. I'm gonna give you another example. And they tried to call Captain America woke. It wasn't. This Captain America honestly pulled punches to me, especially considering they had a black male director. They pulled a lot of punches. They really could have gone into how crazy the nation got with a black Captain America. They really could have, and they pulled their punches with it. Mm-hmm. Here's how I would have fixed that movie, quote unquote, to make it more of a unique Sam Wilson movie. This goes to my larger issue with Marvel. Before I get into that, how do you feel so far about where Marvel is right now in reference to the things that I've already brought up?
At this point, I'm just holding my breath, dog. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because it's hard to trust anything going forward until it actually comes out. You know, I mean, they did the same thing, kind of. You know, I mean, you know, the Eternals also kind of woman led. You know, which it was a solid movie.
That's what I was gonna say. Eternals is not a bad movie. It's
Right.
just a rough MCU movie. I'm not sure I would have put Eternals in the spot that I put it in.
Facts.
I honestly don't even know if it needs to exist. But Eternals is not a bad movie. Go ahead.
That part, man. You know, it's like you just hope that it doesn't end up going in some place to where you can't defend it anymore, you know. Because there are some fans out here. I don't really consider them fans. I mean, I know how they say, right? It doesn't matter what time you got to the party as long as we all get there, you know.
Right.
But you know, a lot of people didn't become fans until, you know, Black Panther and everything, and after that. So they didn't actually have to go with the build up and the
The
grind and the
grind, man.
struggle to get to where we were. You know what I'm saying? So I just keep telling people like, hey, this is all we going through, but it's just lasting a little too long for some people.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
understand, you know what I'm saying? So it's on one end, I'm a fan defending it. On the other hand, I'm looking at the watch like, what are we
Come
doing,
on,
bro?
man. We got
Like,
somewhere to be.
come on, man.
Yeah.
So it's
And
it's
even this
like,
whole buildup has just been janky. It's been really
yeah,
janky to
bro.
get to the next Avengers movie, man. And they looked like they had focus, and then the whole Jonathan Majors thing happened. But honestly, I think they wanted to get rid of Kang anyway. I
Mhm.
feel like the executives lost their faith in Kang the moment they allowed the director of Quantum Mania to have Ant-Man be him. At that
Right.
point, it was like, what are we? He's not the same. Even in Loki season 2, he's not the same anymore after that.
Facts.
Like, seriously, like that's like in wrestling, man. Like having Andre the Giant, and I know these are two different time periods, but having Andre the Giant lose to WCW Rey Mysterio, not the way they built him up when he got to WWE. WCW Rey Mysterio would have had no business being in the same ring with Andre the Giant.
Punching bag.
So, right, like, yeah, and it's like, what are you doing in that situation? Really, your quote unquote smallest hero beat your big bad like Sully? Could you imagine if Thanos would have lost that fight like that?
Yeah, it was a cop
That
out.
would have been crazy. And then they got to the fan service phase where they had all the characters in Multiverse of Madness and all that kind of stuff. And it was just crazy. So if we were to do the MCU again, or even just try and move things forward from here, I don't understand having adamantium in this film and not mention mutants.
Yeah, it's Wolverine. He's
Do you
synonymous with it.
right? Do you know how easy they could have made Captain America progressive without having Hulk in it? You discover that Thunderbolt Ross has a program. He's discovered mutants.
Right.
And it's similar to Wanda and Quicksilver, where Hydra had them. You had the same thing.
Right.
Thunderbolt Ross found out about it, figured out a way to possibly locate other mutants, not Cerebro just yet, but other mutants.
Mm-hmm.
You could have had this be the launching point. They're disenfranchised people, which as a black man, you can relate with that. And it extends what Captain America means in terms of defending people, because now he has to defend people who are different. Have him go against what Thunderbolt Ross is doing and help out. And you didn't need a bunch of mutants or whatever. You could just, I'm trying to think of some random mutant that you could have had in here. Hell, if you really wanted to cook, you could have introduced Storm in this film.
True.
And had him defend Storm. Had him have to have Storm's back in this movie. And you would have started that climb to X-Men, because we're all familiar with it, and they've already been flirting with it. They flirted with it in the Marvels.
Right.
And of course, we got Deadpool and Wolverine, which if we're
Wolverine.
gonna go with the two absolute bangers out of this whole phase, is Deadpool and Wolverine and Spider-Man No Way Home. Those are the
Facts.
period. And they're borderline nostalgia acts, but it is what it is. There are also examples of what Marvel should have been doing. The hubris of Marvel, just sitting on mutants this long, is crazy. You had you had recognizable characters that you could lean on after getting rid of Iron Man and Captain America. And y'all chose to give us She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel, another Doctor Strange movie, a third Ant-Man movie, and a fourth Thor movie, which I'm cool with Thor, but still, you really sat there on that gold mine and was like, nah, we ain't gonna do that. That makes absolutely no sense.
Mm-hmm.
There is somebody other than Kevin Feige that was instrumental to those first three phases. And I believe that person is gone. I don't know who they are, but somebody who was in the building at first is not in the building anymore.
Right.
I thank God that Kevin Feige took one look at the direction that Daredevil Born Again was going in and told them to scrap this shit. Because
Facts.
if they had to give out a bullshit Daredevil, these people were gonna turn on him.
You know it.
I really hope we're headed in a positive direction. Then I know I wanted to discuss a little bit about the black characters. I'll be real quick on that. To me, Sam kind of feels second fiddle in this to Thunderbolt Ross. This is a Thunderbolt Ross story.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to get Ironheart, and to be honest, that character is annoying. There was nothing about that character in Wakanda Forever that dictated that she should have her own show.
Facts.
Nobody wants Shuri as the Black Panther because T'Challa has so many stories out there that needs to be told. We also don't want that little kid T'Challa. Don't give a fuck about that kid. So that's bullshit. And Wakanda is toe up because Mayans tore the shit up. And then who else is there? Armor Wars, which is supposed to star Don Cheadle. The latest thing he said about it is, I don't know what the fuck they doing with that show. Secret Invasion was trash and a complete waste of Samuel Jackson and Don Cheadle.
Damn facts.
A complete waste of them. Who else is there? What's another Blade? I ain't even got to say anything about it. You know why? You know why I don't have to say anything about it? It don't exist.
It's not coming out.
It don't exist. I don't understand. I don't understand how we got Shang-Chi before Blade. You see what I'm saying?
Well, there's a lot of Asian hate in the country going on around that time.
I do not understand how, for the life of me, we have a Black Widow movie and not a Blade movie because you had to figure out the right story to tell.
Facts.
The fuck? And it's not just like first of all, a lot of Black characters have trash writing associated with them, right? But on top of that, it is a concerning lack of Black male leads in this whole thing. Yep. T'Challa can't come back to a strong Black male lead. You had Nick Fury and honestly a bullshit show.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Wilson, they had to do all these reshoots and all this kind of shit just for him to kind of be a secondary character in his film. Ironheart has taken forever, which again, I don't even know why we're even making it. And Blade just can't see the light of day. The Daywalker can't get out the gates. Like it's science. It's a motherfucker that killed vampires. It's half vampire. What are you doing?
It's not that hard to write.
Meanwhile, Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan, they just decided to do a Blade movie themselves.
Facts.
And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to move on after this point. You know how I know when you put the product before the message, it works out, and that black people are capable of doing that when they had the opportunity to. Look at Bo DeMayo and X-Men 97. Woke
Mm.
is hell. And when I tell you woke folks don't mind that it's woke as hell, they don't care because it's that damn good.
Banger.
That's how you that's how you do it. That's one of the best. By the way, the three of the complementary products that we brought up here, all three of them involve mutants. X-Men 97, Miss Marvel, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Facts.
Why are you still sitting on it? I tell you what, I think Fantastic Four is going to be a good movie. I do. I think Fantastic Four is going to be a good movie. And I'm looking at how excited Marvel is about that and about Daredevil. It makes me feel like it's going to be a good movie. But I'm going to be honest, they kind of bullshit Sam. Captain America is the only, I believe, the only Marvel product that does not have the Marvel Studios thing at the beginning of it. That's crazy. Does not have it on there. The end credits were the laziest end credits I've seen from them. With the panel lights just shining as it was going on.
Yeah.
Disney just wanted to get this movie out. I know
Facts.
Disney just wanted to get this movie out, man. They
Facts.
bullshitted Sam. And honestly, I'm kind of a Sam Captain America fan at this point, to be honest, after this movie. But Marvel has a lot of catching up to do, and I'm not sure that bringing the Russos back, who have 4 of the best films in Marvel, and bringing Robert Downey Jr. back as another character is gonna do it. I don't know if it's gonna do it. We'll see. We'll see. We're gonna get out of here on this. Captain America: Brave New World at the box office had some good returns, according to the Associated. According to the Associated Press, it says Captain America: Brave New World. I don't know why ad popped up just then. Infused some blockbuster cash into the North American box office, bringing in 88.5 million in ticket sales over the weekend, according to studio estimates Sunday. The Walt Disney Company release is by far the biggest opening of 2025, and the company predicts it will hit $100 million domestically and 192.4 globally by the end of President's Day, which was yesterday, and I believe they did hit that number almost exactly. Okay. It's on the lower tier of the Marvel releases in terms of box office hit, but it is a hit. It's gonna have to make about another 100 million to break even or something like that. No, I think it has to make around 425 to break even. So we'll keep an eye out and see how it does. But something very interesting about this is Anthony Mackie says, look, I haven't been a leading man a lot. I'm usually just a supporting character, and this is the first time I've been a part of a big franchise as the leading man. And honestly, man, I'm happy for him, man. That's a good return and a good start in terms of the box office journey. And it looks like they're gonna continue forward with him rebuilding the Avengers, which I think is going to be very interesting. But he's going to be a key piece in the upcoming Doomsday and Secret Wars films. And yeah, I'm excited to see more of Sam Wilson as Captain America and see where we go on the money train with all of this. But Marvel, I really hope y'all get this shit together.
Thanks.
Did you have anything you wanted to say just in terms of the box office performance by Captain America?
Yeah, I think I saw, hopefully, like you said, whatever ended up coming out of it comes out of it. But I think I also read somewhere where it said that as far as opening day, it was the second biggest Cap film. I think they
That's
said it
dope.
made 40 million the first day.
Yeah.
So that's the second biggest Cap release. So
Yeah. No extra Avengers or anything. Because
yeah,
I know Civil War was huge because this is essentially Avengers 2.5.
yeah, pretty much.
And a lot of people didn't expect the Winter Soldier to be as good as it ended up being, but
Right.
it sustained a good run. So yeah, man, like shout out to Anthony Mackie, bro. Yeah, I'm happy for the brother.
Yeah, man.
All right, man. Let's get up out of here. It's time for us to get up out of here. It's been one of them weeks.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a pleasure speaking with you. And everybody, you know, at this point, I'm really appreciative of the support and the views and everything this show has gotten. We're only growing, only going to continue to get bigger and better. Continue to watch, continue to comment, continue to like and subscribe. I appreciate everything. On behalf of my boy Hoodie C, I'm Jarius, the Unapologetic Geek. This is the Unapologetic Opinion, and we are out of there.
U-GeekTV.